This is the Lemonade War, Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is called Negotiation. Negotiation is a noun. It means a method of bargaining so that you can reach an agreement. Chapter 9. Evan looked up from the marble track that he was building when Jessie walked in the front door. She looked hot. She looked sweaty. She looked really, really happy. Really happy. Like she'd just got an A+, or like she'd just won a war. "What are you smiling for?" asked Evan, holding a marble at the top of the track. No reason at all." Jessie put her hands on her hips and stared at Evan. She looked like one of those goofy yellow smiley faces, all mouth. "Well, quit looking at me, would ya? It's creepy. You look like you're going to explode or something." Evan dropped the ball into the funnel, and it raced through the track, picking up speed around the curves. It passed the flying wheel, sending the flags spinning, then fell over with one final drop. When it reached the end of the track, it went sailing through the air like a beautiful silver bird and fell short. The marble landed on the ground instead of in the bullseye cup. Evan muttered under his breath and adjusted the position of the cup. "Why don't you raise the end of the track?" said Jessie. "You'll get more loft with the marble." Evan looked at her angrily. Why do you think? The marble had fallen into the cup the last 10 times he'd done it. Why did it have to fall short the one time she was watching? "Don't tell me what to do," he said. Why was she smiling like that? "I didn't tell you what to do," she said. "I just made a suggestion. You can take it or leave it." She turned to walk up the stairs. "Grumpster," she tossed over her shoulder. Evan threw a marble at her, disappearing back, but disappearing back, but missed her by a mile. Well, he hadn't really been aiming anyways. He just wanted the feeling of throwing something. He'd been feeling the need to throw something the past 4 days. Grumpster. That was the name of the character that he made up when he was 6 and Jessie was 5. Way back when Mom and Dad were fighting a lot and Evan and Jessie had to get out of the house. They'd scramble up to the climbing tree. Evan had his branch and Jessie had hers, and they'd wait it out. Sometimes they had to wait it out a long time. And once, when Jessie was thirsty and impatient and cranky, Evan said, "Be quiet, and I'll tell you a story about the Grumpster." Minister Fink, to be exact, was a man who was cranky and mean, and he made everyone miserable. But deep down, he wanted people to love him. It's just that every time he tried to do something nice, it turned out all wrong. Evan made up a lot of stories about Mr. Grumpmeister Fink up in that tree. But after Dad left, there weren't any more stories to tell. No one in the whole wide world besides Jessie and Evan knew about Grumpmeister Fink. And Evan hadn't thought about him in years. "Hey," he said sharply. He heard Jessie stop at the top of the steps, but she didn't come down. "Do you want to call this whole thing off?" he asked. "What?" she shouted. "What did you just say?" This whole big lemonade war," he said. "Call it off?" Jessie replied. "Yeah," he said. "Just say nobody wins and nobody loses." Jessie walked down the stairs and stood with her arms crossed, and Evan looked at her. He missed her. He had spent the whole day, the third to last day before school started, all by himself. And it stunk. It really stunk. If Jessie had been around, and they hadn't been fighting with each other, they could have played air hockey or made pretzels or built a marble track with twice as many gizmos that launched the marble into the bullseye cup every time. Jessie was very precise. She was good at getting the marble to go into the cup. "What do you say?" he said. Jessie looked puzzled. I just don't know," she said, frowning. "You see, Megan she..." Evan felt his face get hot. Megan Moriarty? Every time he thought about her, his throat got all squeezed and scratchy. It was like an allergic reaction he had, like the time he accidentally ate shrimp. You told Megan Moriarty about everything? Oh, he felt itchy all over. Well, no, not everything, said Jessie. Evan thought she looked like a fish caught in a net. You did! And suddenly Evan knew exactly why Jessie had been smiling when she walked in the door, and why she didn't want to call the whole war off. She had done it again. She had figured out some way to show the world just how stupid he was. Like the time that he'd come home with 100% on his weekly spelling quiz. The only time he'd ever gotten every single word right. Only to find that Jessie had won a statewide poetry writing contest. He threw his paper into the trash without even telling his mom. What was the point after all? Evan didn't know how, but somehow Jessie found out a way to make more than $103. She was going to beat him. And Megan Moriarty, why, she knew all about it too, and she would tell everyone else, and then all of the girls would know. Paul would know, and Ryan would know, and Adam and Jack, and all of the other fourth graders in the class. Scott Spencer would know too. Can you believe it? He lost to his little sister, the one who's going to be in our class. What a loser. You know what, he said, pushing past her. Forget it. Just forget I said anything. The war is still on. O-N. Prepare to die.